Hey everybody, in this video, Matt Walsh asks the experts a question that seems to be stumping the whole world. What is a woman? This is my first reaction to content that's a little bit more political, so if you guys want to see more of this, let me know by smashing that like button and even consider subscribing. But with that, I'm not going to hold you up anymore. Enjoy the video.
So what is a woman?
This question has been memed on very heavily, but it is an important question. There is actually an answer to this that does work for transgenderism and modern gender theory, but it has some drawbacks that I'm not sure everybody on the left would be okay with. We'll see what this person answers though.
Why do you ask that question?
So just for context, this person is a professor at a major university who talks about women's studies. It's one of the things he teaches is things in that realm. Immediately you notice he's not answering the question. Let's see if he does.
I just really like to know.
What do you think the answer to that question is? That's
avoidance.
Well, I'm asking. That's why I came to a college professor who's this is what you do.
What other kinds of answers have you gotten?
This guy's he's not answering the question, which I don't think is particularly good faith. He's turning it around, but it's actually pretty smart. He's kind of putting out feelers. He's trying to get a beat on who Matt Walsh is and that kind of thing. So, kudos to him for playing it smart, if not a bit cynical.
A lot of like this where you're not answering, and I've gotten a lot of that. So I think it's interesting that you say that some of the people you've interviewed have been reluctant to answer it, and I think that has a lot to do with the questions that preceded it and the way that you've conducted yourself in the interview.
How have I conducted myself?
How do you think you've conducted yourself?
This is very not productive. This is not what we call a war of ideas. There's a lot of trying to get outside of the conversation about ideas here. You can see him trying to talk about, who Walsh is and the way he asks his questions, and less about the answer or the question itself. This is something that in the war of ideas you generally try to avoid. You try to avoid talking about the person in general, or personally. It's ad hominem. You just try to take the question in front of you and just try to answer it the best you can. That's the good faith approach I would recommend anyway.
You just really don't want to answer the questions, do you?
Nope.
I came today very willing and enthusiastic about answering questions about women's and gender sexuality studies, which is the work that I do.
You wanted to answer questions about women's studies, and so shouldn't the first answer you should be able to provide is what exactly is a woman?
Well, for me, it's actually a really simple answer, and that's a person who identifies as a woman.
But what are they identifying as?
Okay. So I'm glad he eventually got to the answer. So, kudos to him. Matt Walsh is going to point this out. This is what we call a circular definition. If you are using the word you are defining in the definition, it's circular. You're not actually defining it in any meaningful way. Somebody who has never heard the word woman before is not going to know what you mean. If you say a woman is someone who identifies as a woman, you're not adding any more information other than you're arguing that it's subjective, because it's about self-identification, but you're still not defining what woman means. How you define, you could say something for what woman means. You could say it's not biological sex. You could say something like it's, roles or personality. You could say that, but he's not saying that. And the reason why he's not saying that is, anybody's guess. But if to answer in a way that's other than biological sex has some large implications. It's actually rather difficult to answer this question for somebody in his position anyway.
As a woman.
So what is that?
As a woman.
Do you know what a circular definition is?
I do.
It's sort of like what you're doing right now, where a woman is a woman.
Mm-hmm. Well, because you're seeking.
No, this is very funny because Matt Walsh. He certainly didn't go to college. I'm not sure if he graduated high school. I think he did, but this is getting very comedic. This interaction here.
What we would call in my field of work an essentialist definition of gender. I think it sounds like you would like me to give you a set of
I don't-
biological or cultural characteristics that are associated with one gender or the other.
I'm not seeking any type of definition. I'm just seeking a definition.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is actually interesting because here's the thing. To have a definition of woman, you would need to do what the professor is saying. You would need to associate some biological or cultural characteristics. You'd have to associate something with the word. So he's right about that. But Walsh isn't putting him into that position he's not asking for that specifically. He's just asking for a definition. It is only the nature of the reality of having to define something that puts this guy in this particular position.
Dr. Marcy Bowers, first of all, thanks for talking to us.
My pleasure.
So you're a world-renowned gynecologist and surgeon. You're also a transgender woman. Can you tell me a little bit about...
Well, I mean, I identify as a woman.
This is actually more honest. You see this definition here because to call somebody a transgender woman as opposed to just a woman does denote a distinction just verbally because you're adding the modifier. This individual insisting on the lack of a modifier is actually a more honest continuation. It's the logical endpoint of modern gender theory is that you would have to abolish that kind of modification altogether because it's, denying their internal sense of self. So, kudos to this person for taking things to a logical endpoint a little bit faster than everybody else. If that's good or not in the long run, I guess that's up to you.
But
You're a woman, right?
I'm a woman that's my life, day to day. But I have a transgender history.
But what is a woman?
A woman is it's a combination of your physical attributes and then what you're showing to the world and the gender clues that you give. And hopefully those match your gender identity.
Right, but that definition... So, see, at least that's not circular, but that's a definition so vague it doesn't mean anything. So, what kinds of clues? What's presentation as you live day to day? What does that mean, right? So that there's two ways out of this definition without actually answering it, which is one, circular, which really gives you no information, and two, a description that is so vague that it could mean almost anything and therefore also contributes or communicates no meaningful information. So, again, both people at tops of their fields, very well respected. Some might even call them the experts, being very avoidant of the question and not providing an answer that actually communicates any meaning.
The critics on the other side of this, of this issue,
There aren't many, but go ahead.
there aren't many who would disagree with what you're saying about...
Well, the dinosaurs of the world are certainly out there.
That's kind of rude. It's not very nice, this person to say. That actually kind of reminds me of Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables thing. Mask slips a little bit there. How they think about the opposition. You gotta be careful. Again, when you're trying to engage in the war of ideas, it's just the animating spirit of this channel is you don't really want to think about your opponent as anything other than human beings, or if you can help it, don't think about the opponent personally at all. Think about the ideas and deal with those. Because it gets really easy to prejudice yourself against them. It breeds resentment and it breaks down communication and conversation, which is what's necessary to actually make things better. So, yeah, a bit of a mask slip there, calling everybody who disagrees with you. And this isn't like an old issue either. It's not like we're talking about like birth control, which was a debate like 40 years ago. Like modern gender theory is happening like right now. To call everybody who opposes it dinosaurs, that's it's not very nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of people in the trans-abled community. These are people who are physically able-bodied but feel like they should be disabled or identify as such.
I don't know if any of you have seen this, but there's an example of a woman who intentionally blinded herself along these lines. I remember like 3 years ago, this was just kind of like a satirical thought experiment, but literally a few days ago, I saw a story of a woman who intentionally blinded herself along these lines, which is horrific and also hilarious at the same time. Weird times we're in here.
For example, a man who has 2 arms but feels like he should have 1. If a man in this kind of marginalized community went to the doctor and said, "I want to have my arm cut off," do you think that
doesn't have anything to do with gender identity.
well, it's someone's self-identity, how someone identifies?
That's someone who has and I'll accept it as a mental diagnosis, a psychiatric condition. I don't even pretend to know what aptomenophilia is all about, but somehow it's the idea that you're fascinated or charmed by having a limb or part of a limb missing. Okay, I would say that's, pardon my non-medical language, kooky.
You don't see any? You think this is totally irrelevant?
Yep.
Good morning, everybody.
So what?
I am not gonna explain why that's funny. Even if you don't think that analogy is exactly comparable, even if you don't think that that's a completely fair analogy, you should understand the point that is being got at and go at it and talk about it. To listen to that and say, I don't understand how this has any connection at all, to think it as totally irrelevant is, I don't know, like, doublethink is a very cliched term. It's not exactly double shit think. I mean, I guess it's just a level of, like, willful blindness brought on by ideology that's quite miraculous. And again, even if you don't think the analogy works, you should still understand the connection being drawn there. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this peek into the great intelligence of our intellectual betters. I know I sure did. I found it very entertaining. Thank you all. See you next time. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that reaction video. If you did, drop a like and please consider subscribing to see more. If you didn't, tell me why. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I want to have these conversations. If you want to see the rest of my content or explore the broader Pangburn universe that I'm a part of, click one of the buttons that should be floating around my head right about now. And as always, I hope to see you all out there engaging in the war of ideas.